Hi everyone, today we're going to do Unit 6, Lesson 6, and it's more trigonometry, it's more SOHCAHTOA. We're just going to learn two new vocab phrases. The first one is angle of elevation. So imagine you're standing on the ground, maybe this is you, and you see an eagle. Okay, so here's the eagle up flying in the sky. The angle of elevation is from your horizontal line of sight up to the object that you see. So this angle right in here is the angle of elevation. Let's label that. Angle of elevation. It's basically an angle while you're looking up at something. Now the second new phrase is called angle of depression. So angle of depression, let's say you have climbed Mount Everest. Yes. Okay, so you are up here. You have reached the summit. And then down here, let's say this is your tent, your base camp that you have to get back to tonight after summiting Mount Everest. Well, the angle of depression is from your line of sight down to the object you're looking at. So this angle while you're looking down is the angle of depression. So angle of elevation is when you're looking up, angle of depression is when you're looking down. So all of today's lesson is word problems, your favorite. So let's get started. Number 1, a tree casts a shadow that is 25 feet long. Let's start by drawing a tree. So everybody draw your best tree here. Beautiful. And it casts a shadow. So the shadow would be on the ground. And the shadow is 25 feet long. So there it is. A tree casts a shadow that is 25 feet long. The angle of elevation from the far end of the shadow, which would be like here, to the top of the tree, which would be here, that angle of elevation when we're looking up is 64 degrees. Find the height of the tree. So basically we want to find out X. We want to find out how tall is that tree. So think about SOHCAHTOA. All right, we're going to be using SOHCAHTOA. And start with the angle that you're given. In this case, it's 64. Remember, never use the 90. The X is across from the 64, so that's opposite of the 64. And the 25 is right next to it. It's the adjacent. So we're working with the O and the A. O and A go with TOA, so we're going to choose T. T stands for tangent. So tangent of 64, remember you always follow the function or the word with the angle, equals, opposite goes on top, so X, and adjacent goes on bottom, so 25. There, that's the hardest part, setting it up. Now we solve it, so whatever's on the bottom of that fraction, you have to multiply by that. In this case, the 25s cancel out, and now I'm going to take my calculator and type in 25 tan 64. And when I do that, I get 51.26 feet. Why don't you take a second, pause the video, type it in your calculator, and make sure you get 51.26. Number 2. A jet takes off and rises at an angle of 19 degrees with the ground until it hits an elevation of 28,000 feet. Okay, so you can imagine this airplane takes off. And here's the airplane up in the sky. My very lovely airplane. There it is. Okay, so it takes off and it rises at an angle of 19 degrees with the ground. That's its angle of elevation. Until it hits an elevation of 28,000 feet, which means it's 28,000 feet above the ground. And now it's going to continue cruising at that altitude until it starts its descent. How much ground distance is covered? Okay, so we want to figure out from here to here how much ground distance was covered. So there's our picture. So think about what two sides you have. Here's your angle. The 28,000 is opposite. The X, what's the X? Is it the adjacent or the hypotenuse? If you're thinking adjacent, you are right. So we're going to do the O and the A. So you have to think about SOHCAHTOA, and you're going to choose the one with the O and the A. TOA. T stands for tangent. So tangent of, think about what comes after the word, the angle, equals opposite over adjacent. Now this one, the x is on the bottom. So on this one, we're going to have to multiply by x. These cancel out. So what we have is x tangent 19 equals 28,000. Do you remember how to get x by itself? Right now it's x times tangent 19. So to undo a times, you have to divide. So divide by tangent 19. And then this is what you're going to type in your calculator right here. 28,000 divided by tangent 19. And I think you get a big old number, 81,318 feet. So that's this distance down here. And then it says, at the end it says, I'll highlight it here. It says, now change it to miles. There's 5,280 feet in 1 mile. Ooh, so we have to do one more step. We have to take 81,318 feet, and to get it into miles, you divide by 5,280. You divide by that number. And when you do that, go ahead and try typing it in. You should get 15.4, and then we would label that miles, and that would be your final answer. Kind of tricky. Number 3. From the top of a vertical cliff 40 meters high, the angle of depression of an object that is level with the base of the cliff is 34 degrees. So basically, you have a cliff here. The cliff is 40 meters tall. Okay, maybe you can stand up here and take a look off into the distance, right? Well, they see an object. Who knows what the object is? Maybe there's a little moose down here or something. Who knows, right? So it says, from the top of a 40-meter high cliff, the angle of depression is 34 degrees. So from here, the horizontal, down to the object. The biggest mistake people make is they put the angle of depression in the wrong spot. It has to go here. A lot of people mistakenly put it here. That is not correct. So we do not want to put it there. Get it out of there. Okay, so your 34 degrees is right here. And then it wants to know how far is the object from the base of the cliff. So in other words, here's the bottom of the cliff, here's the object, or the moose in this case. We want to find this. This is going to be a 90-degree angle. Now, I don't know if you remember alternate interior angles, but alternate interior angles, this angle and this angle, will be the same size. So I'm going to move that 34 degrees down here, because now if you look at this triangle, I'll highlight it in yellow, I can use that triangle to solve for x, to see how far that object is from the base of the cliff, or in other words, x. Okay, so here we go. We're going to think about our 34-degree angle. The x, is it adjacent or opposite or hypotenuse to the 34? Oops. If you're thinking it's adjacent, you're right. So this one is adjacent. And then the 40 is opposite. Opposite and adjacent, if you think about so, ka, toa. You got to find the one with the O and the A. It's tangent again. We use tangent a lot. So tangent of 34 equals opposite, which is 40, over adjacent, which is x. Now remember, whatever's on the bottom of your fraction, that's what you multiply by. So we're going to multiply by x. Then you have x times tangent 34. So then remember, you got to divide by tangent 34. Whatever you do on one side, do on the other. These will cancel out. So you have x equals 40 divided by tangent 34. And that's what you're going to type in your calculator. And when you do, I think you get 59.3. And we could label this, it would be meters. The pilot sights the beginning of a runway and must approach it at a 5-degree angle of depression. Okay, so let's try to figure that out. There's a plane flying, right? and it sees a runway. So let's say this is the runway over here. And it has to do an angle of depression of 5 degrees. So from this plane down to the runway, we want this angle to be 5 degrees. And if the plane is 182 kilometers from the beginning of the runway ground distance. Okay, so what that means is from here to here, on the ground, from here to here, that ground distance is 182 kilometers. And we want to figure out what is the plane's altitude or height in the air. So let's say we have to find that altitude or height. Cool, there's our picture. So bring that 5 degrees down, use alternate interior angles. This will also be 5 degrees. Now you have your triangle. So if I draw it in yellow here, this is the triangle we're going to work with. From the 5, the x is opposite. The 182 is adjacent. O and A, again, are part of TOA. Kind of a fluke. We're doing lots of tangents today. So T stands for tangent. Follow it with the degrees. Equals opposite over adjacent. I like this one. All I have to do is multiply by 182 because that's on the bottom of the fraction. And now I can type it in my calculator. Okay, so when I type that in, x turns out to be about 15.92 kilometers. That's how high up it is. But it says round to the nearest kilometer, so I guess I would say it's approximately 16 kilometers. That was a lot of word problems, and there's going to be a few more in the homework tonight. So will you guys try Unit 6, Practice 6? If you get stuck, let us know. Otherwise, have a great day.